Call February 2nd Borough Council work session to order. First item of business, I'd like to recognize our state representative, Mary Jo Daly, is here.
Is that okay?
Or would you like to?
Just invite you.
Because I don't want to turn my back and I'm sitting.
All right, come on forward so everybody can hear and see you through the.
So I have a citation that I wanted to give to the former member of council, Lois Ford, and a current friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine. So it's one of the things we get to do in the house that actually makes you feel good. That you can say nice things about people that like, right? So, whereas the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania takes great pleasure in recognizing citizens who devote their time to improving their communities, and whereas Robert Weisbord is being honored upon the completion of the service on the Norwood Borough Council, and whereas Robert Weisbord served on the Norwood Planning Commission from 2006 to 2012, and on the Norwood Borough Council from 2012 to 2022. Bob gave up his time freely, demonstrating a commitment to building community. With a values-based outlook, Bob worked diligently to improve the borough with an eye to conserving borough resources. Bob's optimistic outlook and his ability to work respectfully with others served his town well over the 17 years of his tenure in borough government. Bob served as a role model to others in Norwood with his consistent and thoughtful work on behalf of the entire community. Now, therefore, the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pays a respectful tribute to Robert Weisbord and notes with gratitude his record of service to the Borough of Norwood and its citizens via his tenure on both the Norwood Planning Commission and the Norwood Borough Council. Offers best wishes for every future success and happiness. And directs that a copy of this citation, sponsored by the Honorable Mary Jo Daly on January 19, 2023, be transmitted to Robert Weisbord, 301C, Windsor Avenue, Norfolk, Pennsylvania, 19022. So we now have witnesses that I'm presenting this to you. Or you're quite welcome, Mr. Weisbord.
So it's Mary Jo actually coming into this trouble as the chair of the Norwood Council. I mean, you were president of the council at the time that I was appointed to the planning commission.
I was gone by the time.
By the time I started, we were all outside by that time. And I guess while I have anyone's ear, if you're a resident of the borough of Norwood, participating in our civic government is a great way to serve the borough of Norwood. And we just encourage everyone to take that under consideration. And I have great incredible gratitude for all of you, council members and civil servants sitting here with you're all not to be taken for granted. It's really significant service to our community. Thank you so much. And you deserve like a giant one of these.
Wait till I retire.
I mean, so many people deserve these, but I'm just thrilled to have one. I mean, I've seen these before. And this is wonderful. Thank you.
I'm really glad. I got them from my state representative when I left the Borough Council. I did. And I would just like to say here, because you really do all deserve a huge amount of respect for doing this work. It's not always easy. And I remember that it's not always easy. I think being a state representative, there's a little bit more space that you have to go to Harrisburg to have the meetings, but so I really appreciate it because I am your constituent at the same time that you are my constituent. So I never forget that because Norwood is a really special place to me, and I really appreciate the work that people put into keeping that going. And this room looks great. I love the table. It really does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have to keep this?
No, you have to go back. Is anybody
Am I in the
else?
shot? Am I holding?
Oh, we've got the whole time, so. If you have time, you'll move the whole council.
Here, I'll take it.
Sure, why
And
not?
Mayor?
You have a minute. Yeah. Samantha will say you're all like this.
Oh, definitely, Jean, who is,
Yeah, Jean,
I've just met
absolutely.
her,
Yeah.
and,
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Oh, going back.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, ready? Punch. There it goes. Download. Excellent. Okay, very cool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should ask here.
Thank you so much.
All right, next one.
Absolutely. I'm not.
Okay. We've got. Let's move on to our business. Brian, will you take the roll?
Absolutely. Council President Fred Bush,
Here.
Council Vice President Michelle Paranopoulos, Councilmember Jean Burek, Councilmember Barbara Fortner,
Here.
Councilmember Rob McGreevy,
Yeah.
Councilmember Cindy Rickards, Councilmember Ira Winston,
Here.
Mayor Andrea Deutsch.
All right. Is consideration of any changes or additions to the agenda. Does anyone have any changes or additions? All right. I have a small bit of administrative business, which is that I'm going to appoint Jean Burek to the Infrastructure Committee and to the Public Health and Safety Committee and to the Parking Committee. And Rob Grady will be stepping down from the Infrastructure Committee. And that's the extent of my comments. So there you have comments.
Just very briefly, I just want to remind folks that if anyone listening, if the gates to the skate park are locked, the skate park is closed. It does not give an invitation to climb the fence or climb under the fence or get into the premises in any other way other than through the doors. So I would ask, if the gates are locked, you do not enter. Thank you.
Public comments.
I actually have one.
All right, we do a public comment in the room. Mr. Royce,
Opportunistic. I know that tonight we'll be just entertaining some guidelines for alcohol burning, and I just would like to say that one of the great things in our community during the pandemic was this kind of the alcohol burning, because it's such great for social cohesion, brought neighbors together. And I understand that the smoke sometimes is an issue. It can be a hazard, but it's really the smoke from those outdoor pits isn't really any more than it breathes safe from a neighbor's chimney. It's the same stuff logs in the chimneys. So when you take the conditions of the ordinance, when you think about them, I would just hope that you would consider the scale of a moderate lot, because our yards tend to be very narrow. And so if the dimensions are too great between, a building, a structure, and a fence, or a property line and a structure, it could be forcing most people in the borough not to have that option. So I just ask you to think really carefully about those dimensions. That's my comment. Thank you.
thank you.
I'm sorry, sir, what's your name and address?
Do we have any comments from online?
So there's one person online. So for anyone online who wants to make a public comment, either literally raise your hand on your video screen, or there's a raise hand function on Zoom, at which point I'll acknowledge you and you'll have the opportunity to unmute and make public comment. All right, I see no public comment on online.
All right, let's move on to our presentation and discussion items. First item is 32 Sabine Avenue final plan.
Sure. So it looks like we have Chris Young here with us tonight to talk about that plan. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Would it be better if I shared my screen, or would you want to share from the packet?
No, actually, Chris, if you don't mind, I just made you a co-host. That way you'll have the ability to share your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this project is 32 Sabine Avenue. This is the final plan stage, and so you've seen this project through tentative sketch. It was approved, and then it was approved through preliminary plan, and we are now back through the final plan process. It has been a long time. I believe it's been about 1.5 years since you saw this last. At that time, the major issue was really, this is the existing conditions plan. Hopefully you can see that. The house or building that's there now has 3 apartments in it. It's in red here, and there's a parking area behind it that will be removed in a driveway that extends out to Country Lane. Well, that driveway goes through some neighbors' properties, and there is an easement that permits that driveway. However, it did not align with where the driveway was. The easement is this rectangular area here, if I can draw it quickly. Right there, but you can see the driveway comes on an angle. And so it took us a while to talk with the neighbors to realign that easement to match where the driveway is. We had to make a couple minor changes for the neighbor, for the driveway to improve it in such a way that he was happy with. And so we did that. We have an agreement prepared by the applicant's attorney, Sposato, or Sleepy Valley Holdings, and the neighbor's attorney has reviewed it, and both parties have signed it, and we did submit that as part of our final plan package. So that was really the big part of what we had here. We had some other cleanup items to do. We addressed review letters from the borough engineer, the borough zoning officer, the Montgomery County Planning Commission, and also the Shade Tree Commission. And so we submitted all of that documentation. We did go to the Planning Commission last month where we were recommended approval, subject to meeting the new review letters that we have. And so we do have new letters from, we don't have one from the zoning officer because I believe all the zoning comments have been addressed. The borough engineer's letter was mostly just comments on things that other approvals we needed from the solicitor, other permits that we would need. We did get a review from the borough's landscape consultant, which we will address, and I talked to him once already. They're all basically will do comments, and we did go to the Shade Tree Commission, who recommended approval with 2 conditions. One is that we submit an arborist report showing the trees that we had noted as hazardous, and we do have that report. And then the other was just addressing the landscape architect's letter. And then lastly, there was another letter from the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And so we have those. They are all will comply letters. I'm happy to go through any of them. Really, the layout here is the same as you saw in preliminary plan, and it was more some of those, it was mostly the driveway that we needed to address. And when zoom in here, you can see there's a little added portion of the driveway here in the back corner of the lot. The neighbor wanted us to get a little wider on that side and get a little further from this 14-inch pine tree to make sure that could be preserved. There was another tree on the other side that we agreed to remove in order to make it easier to save that one. And so that was just a quick overview. I'm happy to go deeper into any of the letters or answer any questions that anyone might have.
Anyone on council have questions for Theo? As we said, we've seen it several times. well, most of us have. I see any.
All right, well, I think it sounds like we're good here, Chris. Again, thank you for taking the time to stop by and talk through this with us. And Borough Council at their business meeting here in February will consider a resolution for approval of the plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Our next item, also will be pretty quick. It's our meeting schedule for 2023 meetings. I'd love you to do this in January at the right time. So typically, our schedule has the workshop and the business meetings on the first and third Thursday. And we often do not have workshop meetings in July and August.
And September.
And September, right. So I looked this year and I did not see any conflicts with holidays. Not that I saw, obviously. So did anyone notice any issues with upcoming days? Might conflict with any holidays?
Let me just check the Jewish holidays.
Right.
Let's see. So the 15th and the 24th of September.
September. No? So we're on the 7th and 21st, looks like. Our meetings would be.
So that sounds fun.
Okay. And do we have any issues with not having meetings in the first, not having workshop meetings in July, August, and September? Concerns there? It's meant that those meetings have been pretty packed, but on the other hand, I'm not around, I think several of us are not around for a lot of those meetings. So when we do the quorum, trying to arrange this.
Which meeting is on the first and third?
So the workshop meeting is the first week, and the business meeting is on the third week. Traditionally, the votes are at the business meeting, and the workshop meeting is for discussion and presentation items, which can be more involved than what you just said.
And then, I'm sorry, what are you saying? Are we keeping the first or the third?
Keeping the
Sorry.
third.
Keeping the third.
Keeping the business meetings.
Okay.
We'll touch on that.
Got it.
Okay, so, seeing no objection, let's move forward with that schedule for the rest of the year. Final, if anyone comes up with any concerns between now and the business meeting, let's readdress. For now, that's good. Outdoor burning regulations as our public comment agenda.
If I may. So in the packet for council tonight is a ordinance that I'm sorry, not actually an ordinance form yet, are regulations that were proposed by our fire marshal in discussion with the Public Health and Safety Committee. And to the public comment that was raised, that was certainly one of the things the Public Health and Safety Committee talked about with the fire marshal. And the original regulations actually had a bigger setback, for lack of a better term, or buffer, I guess is a better phrase, than what these regulations have. And just to back up for a second, the goal of these regulations is not to ban outdoor burning in the borough, but just to give some form of regulation to it. Because right now the fire department has run into problems where people are doing what they would consider egregious sort of violations of fire safety and respect for their neighbors, and having these regulations will give them a tool to actually be able to do something about it, and a leg to stand on when they respond to those calls. So I certainly defer to the members of Public Health and Safety, Rob and Cindy, if they have anything to add. And otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions Borough Council has about this.
Okay, so this I just want to be clear that the only piece of this that would apply to fire pits is this one line, 307.4.3, portable outdoor fireplaces, about page 1. And it says, outdoor fireplaces shall be used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions with all required parts of the portable outdoor fireplace in use and shall not be operated within 10 feet of a structure. So that was originally, I think, 15 in committee. We brought it down to 10. We discussed 5. We settled on 10. So that's kind of where we arrived as a committee. The rest of this proposed ordinance does not apply to fire pits. There's a line on bonfires. There's a line on recreational fires. So.
And does your committee have a recommendation, or are you just?
Well, we recommended 10.
So you recommend moving forward with this? Yes.
Yeah, we were comfortable with 10, but if others we prefer 5, 15, we should discuss it, but that was our recommendation.
15 would be really difficult for the majority of lots. We all kind of tested that in our own.
Yeah, we took out the measuring tape, in my yard at least, and 10 feet would work,
Yeah, 15 will not.
15 would not, yeah.
And I think we should understand, no one's suggesting that someone is trying to come around with the measuring.
Yeah.
I will say, when Phil Henderson, the fire marshal, brought some of the examples to us, I had no idea some of the things that folks were in fact doing in the backyard. That, to be
You can
honest,
tell us.
I mean, there was some, folks with barrels dug into the yard, semi-permanent structures right up against wood fences, and there was no tool as to make the sense for them to enforce something that could really harm your neighbor. So this does not mean that the fire company is going around keeping
And some of them also were in areas of very close housing stock, where in fact, last year we had one where somebody had an open fire and it set fire to a fence that ended up setting fire to a garage, and it became a real issue, a real problem. So these are just some basic rules that they came up with to try and stop some of the most egregious stuff.
So a key item here, actually, it's highlighted in yellow on my copy, is where it says with all required pieces in place.
Yeah.
And so some of these things have a cover, and the cover has to be in place, because otherwise sparks can fly out and set things on fire. And I think that's important, in addition to not being too close to a structure. And because we had a demonstration.
We did, that killed the death of the meet and greets.
Yeah, well, but he made the point there.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times communities would just leave it off because it's easier to.
It's easier to put stuff down.
So, I have a question. So some people have like built-in fire pits that are in the ground, like what category does that fall in?
So that's an issue.
Yeah,
that's
I think
an
that
issue.
should not maybe include recreational fire. Yeah, I guess it's not specified in here, because it's certainly not affordable.
No, it's right, so that would not be allowed.
It's not allowed.
Or not regulated.
Well, now within 25 feet.
Yeah.
25 feet, yeah.
Yeah, so
The recreational side?
No, the semi-permanent, it has a bigger distance, and we would want someone
see what.
putting something semi-permanent in a yard.
Would that be under?
Recreational plumbers.
Well, let's just ask. So let's ask.
So the clarification.
I would think it would fall under, I think it would be considered recreational fire.
Which would not be conducted within 25 feet of the structure unless one to. So it's unlikely that your built-in fire pit is 25 feet away from your house. So they probably would not be fine.
But if you look at the middle of the following definitions, it says a recreational fire where it is not contained in an outdoor fireplace. So
So we'll get portable out, no.
But it's not portable, so it's a bit of a hole.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can ask, good question, yeah.
We'll clarify.
And that's definitely why we're talking about this now before the borough solicitor spends time writing up an ordinance based on it, yeah.
Yeah.
So make a note about that.
There's also a line here that was crossed out. It's an option, it's an exception that could be made for 1 and 2 family dwelling. That's something we'll discuss, but we crossed that out. But,
What does that mean?
well, that these regulations wouldn't apply to the smallest yards.
But that's crossed out.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we struck it out,
I mean,
yeah.
we brought it back, yes, that's right.
I mean, on this other point, I think actually some of these built-in ones actually are closer to the sort of intent of the portable ones.
They're pretty secure, right?
Yeah, and they might be as safe as the portable. We should just strike the word portable.
But Bill's
Yeah.
reservation was having the fire that close to the structure is not.
I mean, I think nothing should be within 10 feet.
Right.
Right.
No, I didn't say 10 feet, but I'm just saying, if you remove the word portable, it might be.
Well, let's see what
Sure.
the opinion
That's
is.
Yeah.
I have another question. And under 307-4, it says the number of exceptions and requires some approved containers. Is that defined anywhere? Like what's approved?
Yeah, I think it actually is defined elsewhere in the code, and this, the International Fire Code, the borough has already adopted, but I don't think it made it into this section, so I can definitely get you an answer on that.
You sure it's not on the next page, under section 202 definition?
I didn't see it.
It might be referring where it says constructive steel, concrete, clay, or other non-combustible material. Yeah, and I can definitely get clarification from the fire marshal on that.
Any other questions from the council? Concerns about moving forward with this? Okay. Sure.
So I will, I'll take those questions to the fire marshal to get answered, and depending on those answers, we'll then talk to the borough solicitor about drafting up an ordinance for council consideration at a future meeting.
All right. We have one action item, which is, all right, Public Works Groupers.
Yes. I move that Borough Council confirm the hiring of Patrick Lane as the Public Works crew person.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Yes, I'll just note briefly, so council is voting on this tonight. The borough manager ordinance gives me the power to hire and fire employees with the confirmation of borough council at the following public meeting. So in discussions with our public works manager, I made the decision to hire Mr. Lane to fill the budgeted public works position we had. In particular, talking with the public works manager, Mr. Lane brings more of a landscape and arborist background, and we previously had the employee he's almost in a sense replacing, Michael Wozniak, had that background, and we had hired Mr. Wozniak because our public works manager used to kind of fill that role on public works, and with his attention to management of the department now, he needs an employee to be able to do some of that work he was doing before. So I think with Mr. Lane's background, I think he'll do a great job filling that role. It's someone that our public works manager worked with in his prior private sector career and has a lot of faith and trust in.
I just said, mostly he worked with the Boy Scouts and the Eagle Scouts to do that nature trail preservation, and he did, and thought that's going to be really helpful when we start talking about Three Elmwood, that this is something that he seems to have experience in already.
Yeah,
True.
Deploy the scouts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good as Eagle Scouts.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, we're going to vote to confirm the hiring of Patrick Lane as Public Works Crew Person. All those in favor? Yes. That's our action items. There's some committee reports, infrastructure.
Okay, we had quite a full meeting. Parks and Rec has agreed to the skate park winter closing proposal. After the first big snow, which may never happen, but okay. They are okay removing the 201 Sabine parking lot from the park regulation. Because that's complicated. They agreed to the 3-member subcommittee, and Rebecca Moore will serve on the subcommittee in place of Jean because Jean's on council. Subsequently, I believe Jean will be the representative from council to that committee and to Parks and Rec. There's a vacancy in Parks and Rec because Jean is now on council, so we have to advertise that. Samantha may have an update on this, but probably not. The PICO grant we were waiting on to hear about for master park planning is still pending.
That's correct, it is still pending.
Okay, Station Square Parks and Rec is going to meet with the Station Square team to discuss their report. And we got a $200,000 grant to fix the drainage near Woodside and Marion. And maybe I'll let Andrew Ryan speak to that.
Yeah, I apologize I didn't have a chance to share the good news with council before. The grant is actually a no-match grant. That's why this did not come before Borough Council for a resolution for approval. And I was actually pretty amazed at how quickly we went from application to approval for it. It was December. It actually was, I'm trying to think the shortest way to tell the story. So shortly after I started working here, a borough resident came to me with concerns about drainage on Woodside and shared some photos with me that I thought were pretty, showed a clear problem in that area. And speaking with the borough engineer, he informed me the borough previously hadn't taken action on it, given the scope of repairs that will be required and the cost to do those repairs. There was a program I'd worked with previously in my career that was designed, literally to deal with these sort of problems. And so I've been meaning to follow up on that, but just didn't have a chance. And I give a lot of credit to our public works manager. This concern came back up again to our attention, and I kind of filled him in on my thoughts on it. And he, took the initiative to follow up with the Montgomery County Conservation District, who runs this grant program. He attended the training you're required to attend as part of the grant, and with some help from our engineer, wrote and submitted the grant application that led to this $200,000 award, which is intended to cover 100% of the cost of the improvement engineering and construction. So I think I give him a lot of credit, and I'm really grateful to the County Conservation District that we got the funding, and I'm really glad we'll be able to solve this problem for those residents on Woodside Ave.
One additional point is that once it's implemented, we'll get PRP credits for this project.
Pollution reduction plan.
And which will also reduce our, Okay, the park rental form is council had only minor comments, so Manager Brian is preparing a form and policy for us to consider. I think it's going to go to the next infrastructure meeting and to council after that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Now the bridge. Okay. So there may be an update on this, but I'll just say what I know so far, which is that at the last at a recent meeting, the PICO representative who has to approve this project said, "Oh no, we want to run our lines under the bridge, in the bridge, rather than aerial it." And the whole design is around the aerial, and PICO had agreed to that in the past. And so they're now they have yet to, well, maybe Manager Brian will update me, but as far as at the time of the infrastructure meeting they had, we hadn't heard back from them. And then we were told not to go after Amtrak to get their part approved until this was approved, because we don't want to go twice. So,
That's correct. So yes, those conversations are taking place with PICO. I know earlier this week we had to help provide some education to the particular person from PICO involved who, my understanding from our engineer, is new to this project. And so he's provided some history on the fact there had never been any conduit on the bridge with PICO lines. There's a PICO gas line that was abandoned a few years back that's on the bridge. And talking to Public Works, I'm glad our foreman, Mike Kennedy, had this historical information. The electric was run when the Little Gem was constructed because they needed additional electric service, and the easiest way to run it was actually found to bring in new service over the bridge. Our engineers responded to PICO that the electric service there is relatively recent as far as utilities go, and has always been an aerial service. So we're continuing those conversations with PICO. I hope we can get a resolution on it in the near future, and we can get back on track of our prior plan of working with Amtrak to get their final review done, so we can then actually start the process of moving forward with putting together a bid for construction.
Is Little Gem the only business that's getting power through that bridge?
I do not know for sure.
well, at this point, the project's going to be delayed.
Yep.
Do we need to call in the official again?
Well,
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'll let you know.
Anything else? Aaron?
Oh, yeah. I'll be
You
quick.
should finish with the Woodside one.
It's just the orders in my notes, I'm sorry. The town square, there's still, there are multiple proposals out there about, whether the road connects or the road doesn't connect. And there's one of these grant decisions that's pending on the funding for it. They also owe us Simone Collins owes us some cost estimates.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. The sidewalk inspection program is starting, waiting for the weather to change, but Kevin Ross just missed some training, and the inspection of the west wing roof at 80 Windsor may have happened. I don't know.
No, I think I'll know for sure from the Public Works manager, but I think he was working to. The person who was going to do it originally wanted to do it on MLK Day.
Yeah.
And so they've been working to find a coordinated time, and I hope no more tomorrow.
And the curbside EV chargers, the target for completion is February 27th, but I don't know if that's going to.
So far, we're on track. They shipped out yesterday.
And that would help us submit the paperwork to get the rebate in the current rebate cycle, rather than having to create another cycle. And of course, this PICO pilot would serve as a model for other jurisdictions. I think we're going to be the first municipality to do this in the area.
Yeah, we would be we're the pilot program for PICO, which I'm really excited about. They, I mentioned to a couple of folks, I'll just share publicly. There actually was an article in WHYY on their website about the Philly Electric, about the car show, and talked about the prevalence of EVs there, and quoted someone from PICO talking about their efforts to make sure the charging grid is ready for EVs, and mentioned, without naming the specific town, that they're working on creative solutions to provide charging, including providing curbside chargers directly attached to utility poles. Or not, I'm sorry, not directly attached, directly connected to utility poles. And so it's good in some form or fashion. Our work is getting out there, but in other parts of PICO, they have directly talked about, partnering with Narberth. And I think once they're actually up and running, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for positive, positive news for the borough there.
Great. So I wanted to touch base about the skate park. The discussion there earlier today, skate park had been locked today, and with my impression that since we had a bit of snow a couple days ago, that was
Major snow.
I know. So we had to officially make a decision here whether that counts as official snow or whether it's going to stay open.
Well, I thought we had.
Not what we have, that's.
Well, I thought we kind of deferred that decision to me and the public works manager.
Yes, that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there needs to be like a sign up there now that's open or closed, and that it needs to be unlocked regularly in the mornings because of.
Does anybody know why it's unlocked today, or why it's locked?
Yeah, we closed it for the season.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and we put a notice about that. And I'll double check the flash, but we definitely.
Let's put a sign there that says closed for the winter.
Okay, yeah, and then, if that sign could also say no trespassing, that would be great.
Oh, wait, that's really sad. Okay, so
There's kids climbing the fence today.
Yeah.
But we didn't know.
nobody knew it was closed.
Yeah, so we're gonna make sure that it's locked.
So what is, I just literally had folks, a parent come to me and say, I'm so grateful for the skate park. My kid skates every day after school for 3 to 4 hours. Why?
I don't know, I just found.
Well, hold on. Also, what time was it when this happened?
It was
4:35.
4:35 o'clock.
I mean, part of the thing too is like, didn't we say we're gonna close it at sunset? So actually, that might have been because sunset.
The kids were in, I think, before the summer.
Yeah.
Well, can we just get clarification on whether it's closed?
Yeah, I'll talk to Jeff.
Can we reconsider that?
I'll talk to Jeff.
It's
really
going to be a Samantha Jeff discussion. Leave it to them.
All right. So just,
Leave it there.
just so we can just put notice that it's closed so that the kids don't say somebody forgot to unlock.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids were.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said what I said. I'll get clarity on where we're at with the skate park. Because I did see actually the other day when it was warmer out last week, and I was walking to my car in the parking lot, I saw people, a very robust crowd at the skate park, and that actually gave me a very good feeling about it. So I'll get some clarity on that.
Okay, and just whatever you decide, just put a notice up.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Let's move on to the FAA.
So we spoke at length with a new agenda item at our last meeting about our Friends of Narberth Green Initiatives, which is fungi. I know it's making cringe. Jean's gonna help us come up with flash. So we will have that for you at our next business meeting. Full council to look at, and then FNA will take the lead. We said we would take the responsibility of both collecting any donations for that fund, really establishing that board, laying out some of the bylines, but we're getting the ball rolling, and we'll have that to you next month. It's something that doesn't make you cringe when I say
I'm trying to get it right.
It's a light. I'm trying to do the easy ones first. The next is, you will see in our next finance administration agenda, dispersing ordinance take 2. I don't know if folks have noticed, but the second smoke shop has opened in Narberth, but it is on Montgomery Avenue.
Yeah.
Because of our ordinance that said we cannot do certain stores in downtown. And I just want us to revisit and re-examine the dispersion ordinance to think, okay, do we want to have some control over what opens downtown for the quantity of shops downtown. So FNA will look, that will be on the agenda. And just kind of for the good of the public, not to judge many public here, is the Finance Administration has investigated what tools are legal and possible to prohibit vacant stores. There are no legal tools to do that. Say, could you hold the landlord responsible for buying a property, keeping it vacant for a year or 2 or 3? And so Sarah Walden's look, there are not tools to help us regulate that. We're really very limited. There's not tools for the government to say, you have to do rent control. There are some tools that we can assure where our town does not have, again, undesirable stores that we identify in the downtown. We do have the legal tool to say you can't have 3 dry cleaners in a row. There has to be a certain distance. So that will go back to FNMA. We'll be on the agenda. We'll bring hopefully council discussion on that. We do have on the March agenda, Dr. Blackwood coming to just kind of educate us all and start a conversation on tax. We have had a couple of neighbors actually email us ideas, but hey, if you haven't heard about this type of tax, we've always looked into it. Invite anybody to please continue bringing those ideas, which is a segue into perhaps there was yet another part-time EIT pickup this week that we were made aware of. If you want to speak to that, you sent out quite a long letter and a Facebook announcement.
I don't think this is an appropriate venue for that.
It does seem like it was a one-off issue, and, community's been informed, so.
I think it's worth noting, I do think it's an appropriate venue to say that this is a rollout and we're asking everyone to be patient, and if you discover something that we are unaware of, please contact us like our neighbor did last week so we can look into it and address it publicly and save folks time.
Right, however, Berkheimer does administer, so if you have a question about how the EIT applies to you, you should contact Berkheimer. And the information is on the borough website, that information is in the borough email newsletter, on the borough's Facebook page. So they're the ones to come to you with questions. If you have a serious problem or something that you can't resolve, you're dealing with that, then definitely contact us.
And I appreciate this neighbor saying, hey, this may bunch some other people up, so we could get the message out and save some folks some headaches. So I do think that's worth noting that we're continuing to monitor this rollout process. That's it for tonight.
All right, great. What we got to see? Sorry, any other questions? What we got to see?
Okay, so at our last meeting in January, we discussed traffic concerns, which is always an number one concern that we hear from residents. And we had a meeting with Mike Schneider, the borough's traffic engineer. And he'll be coming back soon to propose some suggestions, some solutions. Especially for Iona, that's where we're discussing traffic concerns. So we discussed the burning regulation, which we already talked about as a council. The solid waste ordinance is up for revision, I guess, this year, and that's something we're going to turn to maybe in a couple months. The EAC has been very active looking into developing more of a compost plan, and they're also working with the CCA working group, and they've had several meetings with other boroughs, because the more boroughs involved, the better bulk rate you can get in renewable electricity. So they're trying to get up to 40,000 residents involved. And I know they've been talking this more with other boroughs to get the numbers up. So I think that's it.
So, perhaps I've forgotten this, but what's the problem with us putting speed bumps or rumble strips or something else on streets here? Is that allowed in this area?
Yeah, I think we just wanted the traffic engineers.
Yeah, you legally have to, you can't just throw stuff down. You have to, you legally have to do a traffic study first.
So it's just a process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, like more and more, like as I drive around, I drive over these things without that being.
Yeah.
Right.
His name's Mike.
Yeah.
Mike also explained to us at the last meeting that you can't just willy-nilly put them down. They have to be certain distance from intersections. There's rules about where you move them.
But it doesn't, I mean, there are ones that don't interfere with the stone removal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The narrative was always that you weren't allowed to have them. So I can appreciate why you're asking, because suddenly it's, oh wait, you really are. Yes, we've always been allowed to have them, and now we're.
Yeah, you just have to follow the process.
No,
Yeah.
that's all good, I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure that we're not going to solve any kind of again.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what's the timeline on the CCA? Are they coming back to us?
Yeah, the ball is kind of in their court, and so they're trying to get as many boroughs involved as possible before they withdraw the draft contract.
Okay.
And then it would come to us for our consideration.
Alright.
I think it would take at least a few months.
Okay. Should look.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking, that will get us, so media is what about?
but media is much bigger, yeah.
Media is bigger, media is only 50, and the Swarthmore is 6,500, media is 58.
Oh, really? Oh,
I mean, so we're still a long ways to 40.
yeah.
Anything?
Well, they have said that we don't have to get 40,000, but you would just get better rates.
Alright, so we'll talk about that. Anything else, Rob?
I think that's it.
Okay. And Barbara, I don't think parking is met.
So parking doesn't have any meetings scheduled at this time. We are waiting on some data that Public Works is gathering for us to help us set the enforcement periods for the 2-hour regulated parking. So we need that data so we can wrap up then the work that we've done and have something ready to bring back to council. So.
Okay. That's it for committee reports. Any announcements from the council?
This Saturday from 5 to 7 is Narberth Quizzo, Narberth Library Quizzo. It's a big fundraiser for our library, and it's a lot of fun. And it's right here at Borough Hall. Donation is $20 per person. Come single, come with a team. There'll be pizza for sale, there'll be beverages, and it's a lot of fun. And come show off your skills, your Quizzo skills. And join us.
Will be teams of 8, and I think there'll be.
But if you don't have a team of 8, yeah, they'll help you find a team. And it is an awful lot of fun. So you can answer things like, who was the first Ronald McDonald? That's
Yeah, they're going to be a short piece of the online.
You should recuse yourself this year, it doesn't conflict.
Oh, no, he's not recusing himself. Yeah, he is. So you get bragging rights for the year if you come and win.
It's a great time.
I wanted to talk about the Narberth Run volunteers for a second. So the Narberth Run is going to be on April 22nd this year. Take a Breather Foundation really needs some volunteers for the event this year. So if anyone's interested, or if you know anyone who might be interested, they're a fantastic organization, and the run is a great community event the borough's had for a number of years now. So anyone who's able and willing to help out, I would I'll be there, and the folks from Take a Breather and everyone else, and anyone who could help would be great.
I think volunteers get a t-shirt.
They do, yeah.
Here.
And who should they contact?
Actually, so on the Flash, there's a notice about the call for soon in the Flash there'll be a notice about call for volunteers, and otherwise folks are also welcome to reach out to Take a Breather about it. If you have any trouble getting in touch with Take a Breather, you can also reach out to me and I can direct you over to those folks.
What are you volunteering for?
Yeah, also a great question. So they need folks for the run to help with the setup, with the cleanup, and during the run to keep an eye on the traffic barricades to make sure that vehicles don't accidentally get into the race course where the runners are racing.
It's very fun. I've volunteered for years and I love it every year. So volunteers have a lot of fun and feel really good about it. Yeah.
Any other announcements? All right, so after this meeting, we will have an executive session to discuss a personnel matter regarding the hiring of a police chief, director of public safety, and we will also discuss a real estate matter. Is that a correct session?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we will not be coming back into session afterwards, after the executive session. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
For seconds. Okay, going to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning? All right, thank you. All right, meeting is adjourned. So